what you don't know, what you should know, and what to do about it. Last week, we spent a good deal of time revamping our assumptions about curricula. This reassessment is entirely justified. After all, we all went to school where we were taught that learning happens inside an institution and that books divide knowledge into distinct areas with little to no overlap. But simply by recognizing the tremendous integration that exists in knowledge and understanding in various disciplines encourages us to rework our suppositions about curricula in general. This week, we will continue on the topic of curricula from the Latin word for course, as in race course. It is the collection of studies that embody the journey of education. Last week, we discussed math. This week, we'll begin with grammar, the building blocks of everything. I advocate starting with English grammar as early as first grade or even kindergarten. Oh no, you don't remember your grammar? No worries, as I've got some awesome news for you. There are fantastic books on English grammar that make it super easy, at least for the early years, and after that, you'll probably have gotten the hang of it enough to guide your students. Also, it's your chance to shine, to triumph. I loved the Shirley English Grammar program I used with my kids because it had jingles to sing about the different parts of speech, and it broke the grammar down to the small building blocks. A verb shows action, there's no doubt. It tells what the subject does, like sing or shout. And a sentence is complete when 5 simple rules, it meets. My young kids loved those. The practice part of the learning starts slowly with standard questions that encourage the student to think diagnostically. Sentence, dog barks. Question 1, what is being said about dogs? Dogs bark. Bark is the verb. Label it with a V. Question 2, what barks? Dogs, subject noun. Label it SN for subject noun. My son used to run to me in the mornings saying, I want to do some SNV now, Mommy. You know, the SNV stuff. Let's do that. Now, you may be wondering, why do little kids need to know this? Because they need to know everything, because everything, even English to them, is a foreign language. And if you show them that even English, which they are learning by immersion, right, is actually structured and ordered, they will understand better the order in the universe, and they will have less fear in their lives. When we perceive chaos, life becomes uncertain. Uncertainty ushers in fear. Look at your own fears and understand most of them stem from unknowns. Unknowns are typically the results of disorder. Children naturally seek security. Well, we all do. They have a lot of unknowns in their lives, and they need to learn about consistency and constancy. Add to that the fact that they know so very little, and you have a recipe for, well, a desire to learn. By teaching them about the order of things, something they are already curious to know, you show them that there is security in knowledge, and knowledge has order. Language isn't just a collection of random sounds formed in haphazard ways, linked together by accident. Language is deliberate and structured. That's a comforting thing for a child to understand. Oh, and another thing. Just because you've forgotten all the grammar you learned in grammar school, remember that term? Where did that one go? Yes, just because you've forgotten it all doesn't mean it didn't serve you then. And just because you hated to learn it, if you did, well, That speaks more about the method of teaching than it does about the subject matter. On another note, my children used to hate piano scales. They really disliked them, but they wouldn't be able to play piano as beautifully if they hadn't practiced the scales. The scales are piano grammar. To express yourself effectively, you need to have a good understanding of the grammar and structure of language. Same thing with piano, actually. Showing your children these things is putting them on a path to discovery. And because it's a privilege to lead a child to knowledge, you get to participate with them. Children want to know things. Give them the things to know that will help them the most. English grammar is one of those fundamental things. Racist ideology is not, nor is LGBTQ plus information, nor are many of the things our schools focus on these days. Next on the curricula agenda, of course, reading. A friend just said to me that children spell love T-I-M-E. Now that's perhaps more true than we are ready to admit these days. So, read to your kids, with your kids, and have them read to you. And read only the classics, please. What they've done to popular literature of today is shameful. There are classical book lists available online. Carve out time every day to read to and with your children. They will love you for it. Plus, then you'll have something to talk about in the car when you run your errands. Encourage and then demand that your children read a minimum amount of time each day as they grow older. Reading trains the eyes and the brain to imagine, sort, comprehend, envision, and grow. Reading unlocks the world. History is another subject that's been entirely perverted by our current school bureaucracy. Now, that's not to say there aren't wonderful history teachers out there, but as long as BLM, critical race theory, and the 1619 Project is entering our schools, there is very little hope left for history inside the system. Do you, like me, remember history being so boring it was mind-numbing? Was that the teaching of it or the subject matter? Because I absolutely adore history now. Teaching children history is fun and gratifying because it offers them a glimpse into how they too fit into the world. History is important. It's our story. And children love stories. Well, we all do. So branch out on your own. Get yourself some texts, perhaps those that predate the turn of the century, to start instructing your children. And by instructing, I mean exploring the stories with them. If you're like me, not a history buff, ease into it with the youngers. Get some historical novels and some good historical nonfiction. Learn about individuals, heroes who bucked the tide of history. You know a great place to start? The American Revolution, the Pilgrims on the Mayflower, and the Mayflower Compact. Find a copy and read it. Read about Jamestown. One thing I'm so grateful for is a trip I organized for my entire family where we toured the history of the nation in Virginia. We explored for a week in DC and then set out across that state. We saw the Smithsonian, the tremendous monuments of our founding fathers and our brave military that shine across the landscape of DC, the White House, and other government buildings, of course, and then went on to Mount Vernon, Williamsburg, Monticello, Jamestown, etc. History can come alive, and it's exciting. Now, there are so many videos and documentaries available online that shed light for young people to absorb parts of their history.